All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA Show. So, what I'm going to call this podcast, I think, is what you're listening to has a profound effect on you. Now, the reason I want to bring this up, and I'm not going to sit here and complain about the media, right? Or different news stations or all that type of stuff. Kind of what I'm going to talk about is more or less what you listen to, I guess you could say, and how it affects your moods. Besides, listening to things that may be upsetting you. But I don't think a lot of people realize that what you listen to throughout the day, and again, it could be music, it could be a podcast, and of course, it could be what's on television or on the radio or this podcast or whatever the case may be, the effect it really has on you and the way you think and behave. And I grew up in the bar and nightclub business, and I just remember, like, a lot of times my father had a place downstairs I could go and watch TV. He had a bed there and a refrigerator and things. It was like a one-bedroom apartment downstairs. And a lot of times I would be listening, to bands, because he used to have 3 bands a night, or then he would have he would DJ, or he had a DJ playing music, or I would be hearing the jukebox. And basically it was just I used to kind of goof around and call it audio assault, because no matter where I went, I'm listening to that. And then on the flip side, when I went with my mother, it was very Christian orientated, where it was a lot of, Christian music, or very quiet and silent. And it was amazing to me, but I was kind of catching myself that no matter what environment I was in, I was kind of, either if I'm with my mom, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm used to loud music. When I'm with my dad, or I'm playing music, I'm just listening to music in general like everybody else, or watch TV. But more on a quiet tip, which was I didn't realize at the time, soothing. And then now I'm with my father, or with my other family members, cousins and all them, and they were all in bands. Any house I'd go visit, a lot of times on my father's side, they're playing the drums, they're playing the guitar, they're singing. And that was very extreme. Again, audio assault. I'm like, wow. But what I learned at a young age is that all this stuff really affected my moods. And I don't think a lot of people really realize that. What you're again listening to is affecting your mood. It's not just music, I should say, but I'm saying just what you're listening to in general. Because I think a lot of times we listen to things, it could be the media hypothetically, or the television or YouTube or whatever. We're listening to things throughout the day. Are they actually inspiring us? Or is it actually putting us in a bad mood? Is it scaring us? Is it making us happy? All these different types of things, I think, when it comes to audio. And then I remember when I made my first feature film, my audio sucked. I knew audio was very important. I didn't realize how important it was. But then you kind of learn almost your audio is more important than what they're looking at to a certain degree. Because people, if you're watching something and you can't hear it clearly, you kind of feel like you're missing out and you kind of get lost. But if you can hear clearly, but you can't see visually, everything clear, you're kind of like, whoa, what does this mean? Is this like, I just need to make sure I'm hearing correctly? Because again, visually you can kind of use your imagination, or you're like, maybe they're doing this for a reason. But as you know, what's kind of worse than when you're listening to something and it's going in and out? It could even be a conversation, right? Or you're trying to watch something or listen to something and it's going, it's buffering, or you're having all these issues, or static. It's very frustrating. So I just want to kind of bring this up because I really don't think, again, a lot of people realize that what they're listening to throughout the day and the effect it has not only on themselves, but how they kind of treat others. Because I think a lot of times, depending on what we're listening to, again, and these could be, I should say, conversations as well with a lot of people. It could be, you're even on the phone with a lot of people and you got to listen to a lot of bullshit, and then you hang up and you're pissed off. And it's almost like, and I go through that sometimes. I'm not a phone guy too much anymore. I actually got to learn to talk more on the phone. I mainly just talk to my parents and my daughter and my girlfriend if I'm not with her. But I'm not on the phone that often. But when I get on it, I'm immediately aggravated. I have no idea why. And it's not anyone's fault. I'm almost to the point where I feel at times where me having to listen to someone, even who I called and want to listen to, I'm getting aggravated. And I think I realized this too throughout my life, that one of the reasons I talk about this, I had anger issues growing up a lot of times, is because maybe I just was aggravated at whatever I was doing and listening to. Now, that didn't mean I loved listening to music and watching movies and things in that nature and comedians. And I don't think it's that. It's kind of when I would go to other places. And I think hanging out in nightclubs my whole life, because now I walk into a club or somewhere, say it's loud, and I immediately start sweating and getting aggravated because it's too loud, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why I've escaped the last, 20 years, but especially the last 15, and I kind of go to very quiet places, especially like, bookstores, coffee houses, sometimes, as long as they're not blasting music. But I want the tranquility. And maybe that's the one thing you may need in your life. And I really knew this hit home after the last 10 years when I went to saunas inside my gym. And when I'm in a sauna, it's very hot. And for the most part, it's very quiet. And I love that. I can just think. But then I notice when guys come in and they start running their mouths, which is fine, they have the right to do that, I'm immediately getting aggravated again. I'm feeling like a lot of things I'm listening to aren't benefiting me at all. I'm not an eavesdropper. I'm not nosy. So again, I'm discovering all these different types of things. But I think a lot of people should really start just paying attention to what they're listening to in general and the effect it has on them. I know we're always talking about what we see, right? Oh my God, did you see this and that and how it's going to have effect on us and all these things. But I do think a lot of times in this day and age, especially with our phones and us listening to a lot of different types of things, the effect it has. And you probably know this too, even if you work out or don't. Like if you go work out and you play certain music and it's blasting, in your head, it may motivate you, right? And then other times you may have no music or you have to listen to certain music at certain places and it's boring you to death. It's almost putting you to sleep. So anyways, I'm going to really wrap it up there. If you got any questions or comments, hit me up. And I know some of my podcasts are really kind of off base, but I do like to talk about things that I've gone throughout my life that I think about a lot. And when I discuss this with other people, and they're like, Rich, I never thought about it like this or that. And then they'll say back to me, I only liked it. I never realized it. I just always just listen to music. And then even if I said something, hey, why don't you listen to a podcast? Or why don't you listen to something different than just music? And then they start doing it and they come back to me. They're like, wow, I was just always almost programmed to listen to music in a car or programmed to only listen to music on my iPad or on my iPhone or wherever they're listening to music on their computer. And I just wanted to kind of do a podcast on this. And I think I'm going to wrap it up with this officially. My Mastering Self-Confidence program, when I made it, I did 45 hours of content. I didn't do anything visually. Because if any guy that I wanted to help, I wanted them to just concentrate on listening to what I'm saying, not watching at that point in time. Because I think a lot of us, too, when we do video and audio, we're kind of getting distracted sometimes. So I wanted to make sure that whoever put that on, they can listen to it in their car or in bed or wherever they chose to listen to it. And they didn't have to worry about watching it. I think a lot of times when we think about things in our life, we always have to have now a lot of times visual and audio. I love just going back to audio, and that's why I do the podcasts right now the way I do them, which is nothing visually. I just want you to listen to me if you're interested in doing so. So, all right, if you have any more questions or comments, you can hit me up. I'm at richcelenza.com or masteringselfconfidence.com. Take care.